Imagine an old gray stone castle on a cold, gloomy night. The wind is rushing through the trees, the rain is hammering on the windows like little hammers. A sick king is terribly sick within. He's laying in bed under heavy blankets. The doctors are walking on tiptoe. Nobody says anything. The whole planet feels like it's holding its breath. This is the story of a family secret, a major decision, and a prince who chose to change it all forever. They say that in the world of royal tales, everything is usually wonderful, but this one is different. This is a story about power and what happens when you forget your responsibilities. It's the kind of story that sounds like a movie, with intrigue and huge movements nobody saw coming. It's the story of Prince William and a decision he has taken that people will be talking about for a very long time. It started at a place called Balmoral. Balmoral is a very ancient Scottish castle, somewhere the royal family goes to be secluded. Plenty of history here. It is where the late Queen Elizabeth spent the last of her life. It is a place of fog and rain and terrible memories, but tonight the castle's interior felt heavier than it had ever felt before. Not merely unwell, but very, very ill the king was. They say he couldn't even move, speak. He was surrounded by the best doctors in the world, but he fought alone. The queen would be right there by his side in a story like this. You'd think she'd be holding his hand, waiting for him to wake up, but the story tells us she was. She was 1,000 miles away. She was on a super yacht, a big luxury boat. The sea of the Mediterranean was in the sun. The water was blue and warm. It didn't rain. There were no thick stone barriers. There was just luxury. This is what makes the story so exciting. One was trying to survive in a gloomy chamber. The other was basking in the sunshine on a boat. Prince William, the king's eldest son, is a very dutiful, rule-following sort of person. He feels that being a royal is more than wearing a crown or living in a palace. He sees it as a job. It's a promise you make to the people, to your family. Knowing where his stepmother was changed something inside him. He noticed the timeline, and he knew that it was not an error. It was an option. She knew the king was ill, but she stayed on the boat nevertheless. For William, this was the moment that broke 20 years of trying to get along. He decided he couldn't sit silently anymore. But before we go with this tale, remember this is a story set in the world of royalty. It's a drama about what might be happening behind closed doors. This is a fictitious depiction of the strains that can tear a family apart when there is as much at risk as a throne. William was livid. His rage began to ripple through the corridors of the castle like a chilly wind. He was not the only one who was angry. Other members of the family watched and waited. The king's sister, Princess Anne, is reputed to be quite tough and very serious. She doesn't like it when people don't perform their job. She was at the castle watching the king, and she was as upset as William was. Then there was Prince Edward, the younger brother of the king. Normally a fairly quiet man, even he could detect something was up. Here the story takes a very thrilling turn. Sounds like something in a spy book. Princess Anne was received in audience, a room with a large wooden table and a thick door. She entered. The light was poor. Everyone was fatigued from staying up late to watch the king. The atmosphere was filled with anxiety. You could sense the family history watching over you. Anne drew out a hidden document from a leather pouch. It wasn't just any paper. It was a document that had been tucked aside for years. This secret paper was the work of the late Queen Elizabeth. She was an extremely clever woman who was always looking ahead. She knew one day the king might grow too sick to lead. She realized that there could be a problem, so she made up a particular rule. And in most cases, when a king cannot lead, his wife can take up some of his duties. But Elizabeth's rule of secrecy said something else. If the king was incapacitated, then the power should go straight to the next king, Prince William, it said. But there was a catch. William could not merely take the power for himself. He needed two more individuals to go with him. He needed two people that the late queen trusted above everyone else. They were Princess Anne and Prince Edward. The document lay on the table waiting. Anne picked up a pen and signed her name. Then Edward seized the pen and wrote his name. The ink was still wet on the page, and for a moment everything was altered. At that point, the narrative goes, William stepped up. He didn't have the crown, but he had the power. William didn't dilly-dally. He waited not for the sun to rise. He immediately started working. He insisted on looking at all the hidden books and documents of the imperial family. He was interested in where the money was going, who was working in the palaces. He wanted to know. As Prince of Wales, he was not always allowed to witness everything, but now he could see it all, and what he found made him furious even. He found the Queen's family has been intruding in the royal business. Her family members handled enormous projects. They were deciding about money and buildings. They were all over. It was like a secret network constructed while no one was looking. The monarchy is a sign of service for William. It's owned by the people, but what he observed appeared like a private family enterprise managed for personal advantage. He felt that the institution was breaking its faith in him. The most renowned portion of this story is what happened to a woman called Annabel Elliot. She's the sister of the Queen. For years, she had a very important position helping with the royal buildings and decorations. She had a lot of money and a lot of power. William looked over her contract and did something really brave. He picked up a pen and crossed her name off. He sacked her. He didn't beg her to go softly. He didn't give her much warning. He just said, "You are done." This was a message to all. A great bell was ringing, it seemed, through the palace. It said the old way of doing things was over. If you were merely there for the money or the power, William was going to find you, it said. The folks who worked at the palace were amazed. Never had they seen a prince act so fast and so cold. It was a clean sweep. He was cleaning the house. While this was happening within the walls of the castle, the rest of the world was beginning to hear rumors. It was the individuals that do the news for the royals who sought to keep it hidden. They wanted to pretend everything was fine. They wrote letters that the queen was merely napping. They sought to cover up the truth. But the truth is like water, it will always find a way out. Anonymous documents were delivered to the leading news stations in London. These papers revealed the exact location of the queen's boat. They unveiled the dates when the king was at his worst. The people found out and they were really angry. People loved the king. They thought it was inappropriate for him to be left alone while his wife went off on a luxury vacation. The newspapers had really nasty headlines. They said, why wasn't the queen performing her job? There was no way to make it appear nice. Even the folks who normally backed her started to keep quiet. This is the section of the story where the queen feels terribly lonely. When things are going well, you have a lot of pals in a vast palace, but those friends can vanish when times go tough. Her people stopped returning her calls. The folks that used to aid her opted to help William. They observed the wind blowing. They didn't want to be on the losing side. The isolation was complete. She was like a ghost in her own palace. Finally, the most dramatic incident came. Special envelope handed to the queen. It was sealed with red wax, so it's extremely official and quite serious. A list of new rules was inside the envelope. She was told she had lost her old power. Her budget, her money to manage the office, was cut to nearly nothing. She was told she could no longer represent the royal family at major occasions. But hardest of all was the order about her home. She was told to leave Clarence House and pack her bags. Clarence House was her lovely London house with the king. It was filled with her stuff, her memories. She was instructed that she must retire to her private property in the country, far from London and far from the king. This was more than just moving. It was an exile. That was William telling her she was out of the inner circle. She was to be dispatched. Now we need to think about what this means for the future. This tale is more than a fight between a stepmom and a stepson. This is a story about a prince preparing to be a king. William proved he can be very harsh. He has shown he will play by the rules to get what he thinks is right. He didn't act like a youngster having a tantrum. He was acting like a general in a battle. He bided his time, he rallied his allies, and he struck at the opportune moment. Some may believe it cruel to do this when the king was ailing. But in this story, William thinks he was preserving the monarchy. He feared if he didn't do something, the royal family would seem awful in the eyes of the world. He believed he had to defend the firm, as they sometimes call the royal enterprise. He utilized the secret paper from his grandmother because he felt it was his obligation to step in when things were falling apart. The account suggests that the hidden paper was there for a purpose. Queen Elizabeth was a very intelligent queen. She weathered several scandals and many hardships. She knew families can be a messy business. She understood sometimes the person closest to the throne wasn't the greatest person to lead. Circuit breaker, she called it, giving William the skills to step in. It was a gift from the past for the future's help. What about the king? And this is the worst part of the story. All these enormous things were happening and he was still in bed. He didn't realize his son had taken over the business. He did not realize that his wife had been transported away to the country. He was unaware that his sister and brother had surrendered his power. If he wakes up and gets better, he will find a world that is entirely different. He saw his son transform everything. If the king recovers, he will have a very difficult decision to make. He can be mad at William or he can accept the new way of life, but he will find it difficult to alter it back. If he makes a move to bring the queen back or restore her family to their jobs, he's breaking the rules his own mother set down. He would be fighting his own heir, his brother, and his sister. The anecdote suggests that the power has shifted, and it is not easy to shift it back. For the queen, sitting at her country house, the reality must be quite hard. She worked for many, many years to become the queen. She took a lot of trouble to become accepted by the family and the public. At last she had the crown, the palace, the title, but it was all gone in only a few days. The lesson from the narrative is that without the trust of the people around you, a title is only a term. Trust makes the crown more than a weighty bit of metal. This dramatized story leaves us with many questions. Was William going to do this always? Was he merely waiting for an excuse to shove his stepmother out? Or was the Mediterranean excursion, after all, a shock to him? The answer may never be known, but the story provides us a prince who is prepared to reign with a cool, steady hand. He's the sort of man who puts the institution above his own sentiments. He is not the sort of man who will hesitate to act if he believes the monarchy is under threat. Now the halls of palaces are still. The purge is over. The new people sit at their desks. The ancient relatives are dead. The prince is at the helm, and the world is watching to see what he'll do next. This story of the secret document and the superboat voyage is a reminder that even in the world of kings and queens, things may change in the blink of an eye. You earn power every day. When you lose it, it's very hard to get it back. As the sun dips behind the Scottish hills, the mist floats back into the woods around Balmoral. The king is still at ease. The physicians are still monitoring on, but the prince makes the call. In this world of fantasy, the pen that signed the secret paper has changed the path of history. It's a story of a son coming to the rescue when he feared his father was being let down. It is a tale of a family at war with itself and a prince who realized that duty must always come first, no matter how much it hurts. Picture the queen peering out of the window of her country residence. She sees the trees and the meadows, but not the guards or the royal gates. She is far away from the core of it all. She had climbed to the top of the mountain, but the wind blew her off. And the one who blew the wind was the youngster she had known for decades, the boy who grew up to be a man who does not forget. This is the drama of the royals, a world full of twists and turns, where one misstep can cost you everything. The prince sits at his desk and the story ends. He's got a lot on his plate. He's got a monarchy to manage. He's got a daddy to look after, and he's got a future to build. He knows the buzz is there. He knows there are many who fear his might, but he doesn't care, it seems. He did what he thought was right. He has employed the hidden mechanism handed down to him by the great queen to defend the throne. Hero or villain, depends who you ask, but what is a given is he is the one running the show now. This tale of power in yachts and secret papers provides a peek of a world of high risks. It tells us that even the most powerful must abide by the norms of duty and devotion. If you break those guidelines, there are ramifications. And in this scenario, the consequences were as dramatic as they could be. A queen cast out, a prince in the driver's seat, and a king in a family storm. This is a story that will stick with you, a fictitious mystery as weighty and tangible as the stone walls of Balmoral itself. Let us reflect on the decisions people make as we close this chapter. Consider the difference between a holiday and an obligation. Imagine you're the prince, what would you do? Would you take a seat or would you stand up? And in this drama, the prince acted. He chose to make a difference, and in so doing showed everyone what kind of king he intends to be. The story of the royal family is constantly evolving, constantly surprising, and constantly shifting. This was only one chapter, yet it was the most dramatic yet. Many mysteries are kept in the palaces of London. There are rooms that no one enters, papers that no one reads, but sometimes a secret gets out in the open. Sometimes there's a secret rule that changes the world, and that is what happened in this story. Her grandson took authority using the hidden rule of Queen Elizabeth. It was a move that nobody saw coming, and it was a move that transformed the family forever. So the next time you see an image of a palace or a crown, think about this narrative. Remember, there are actual people behind the riches and the jewelry with real sentiments and real arguments. Royalty is a heavy burden, and remember, there's always somebody watching, waiting for the ideal moment to do what they feel is right. The prince is looking on, the family is looking on, and the world's history is being written one signature at a time. This glimpse inside a royal power struggle, dramatized, is a story of tension, rage, and the hard truth about leadership. This is the story of how the quietest room in a castle became the most significant room on earth. This is a story about a luxurious boat that became a symbol of betrayal, and it's a narrative where a prince finally showed the world who he is. The shadows above Balmoral are lengthy, but a prince willing to lead is drawing the future in brilliant, clear lines. The king's bed is the center of the world to those in the castle. Every breath he takes is numbered, every flicker in his eyes is a hope. But outside that room, the machinery of the monarchy is buzzing with new vigor. The prince is driving, the old advisors are shutting down their desks. A new age has begun, even if the king has not yet realized it. It is a peculiar moment, a time of transition and struggle, but a time of strength too. And thus the story ends in a peaceful way. Scotland's reign has stopped. The sun is going down. The prince looks over the land that will one day be his to govern outright. He's proved he can protect it. He can make the hard calls. He's proved that. He has proved that he is his grandmother's grandchild. The classified paper is back in its envelope. The ink has dried and power has changed hands. This, then, is the end of this tale, this story of a royal family like no other, and a prince who would not be pushed. Imagine the weight of a heavy crown. Imagine the weight of 1,000 years of history. That's what Prince William has with him at all times, and in this story he proved that he is strong enough to carry it. He proved that nothing and nobody can stand in the way of his duty, not even his family, least of all his own family, and the drama of the royals goes on. The prince won the day for now. This imaginary account of a power maneuver that changed everything will be told for years to come, of the super yacht and the secret paper. The queen's sister has died. The queen herself lives on the land. There was a prince in the palace. The books are open and the rules are in place. This is the new world. It is a world of obligation, a world of openness, a world where the prince determines who stays and who leaves. This is a world Queen Elizabeth was prepared for. This is a reality Prince William has now made real. The story of the Mediterranean option and the Scottish castle is a story that tells us all of one thing. In the game of crowns, there is no space for error. The last lights go out in the palace and the prince is still awake. He is thinking of the future. He is thinking of his father, and the pledge he made to be a good leader is on his mind. He has started off his quest in a dramatic fashion, but he believes it is the only way. The story of the royal power move is the story of a man who did what had to be done. It is the story of a prince who became a leader when the world held its breath. And it is a narrative not to be forgotten in the halls of enormous stone castles. Think of the silence of a house that once was full of people. Think of the silence of a queen with a voice. That is power on the go. It is a sound that is soft but louder than any roar. It's the sound of a new king in waiting making his mark. It is the sound of the future coming in. And it's the sound of a family saga that has come to a turning point. The The prince has spoken, and the world will never be the same. Ultimately, this is a dramatized account about the heart of a family and the soul of a nation. It's about what we expect from our leaders and the fallout from their failures. It is a narrative of a prince who did what he thought was right, even when it was hard. It tells of a hidden paper and a great decision. And it's a story that shows us that even in the world of royalty, the most essential thing is to execute your job with integrity and be there when you are needed most. The prince is prepared, the castle is still, the king is asleep, and that's the end of the royal power play narrative. It is a story of drama and tension, a fictional view of a world we can only fathom. But it is a story which reminds us all that power is a heavy thing and it must be wielded with caution. The prince is strong now, let's see what he does with it. And the story goes on day by day in the great grey castle in the Scotch mist. The queen is walking in the garden of the country house. She gazes at the flowers, she thought about the palace, she thought of the boat and the light. She knows one choice can change everything. She knows that the prince she knew is no more and a new leader has taken his place. She is a queen without a kingdom, a leader without a crew. She is history now, a chapter closed with a prince's hand. The prince walks the extensive hallways of the palace. He looks at pictures of his forebears. He can feel their gaze on him. He knows they would get it. Whatever happens, he knows that the monarchy has to survive. He is a leader of action. He is a man who watches. He is the prince who won the throne. As the moon rises over the city of London, the prince is prepared for what is to follow. It's his tale now. He's the guy with the pen. He is the one who is making the future. And he is not going to allow the story to end in any manner other than the way he wants it to. It is a dramatized story full of mystery and emotion that shows us the power of a single moment. We see a vacation become a problem. We see a hidden paper become a protection. It is a narrative about a family that is different from ours, but also the same. They have disputes, they have secrets, and they have to make hard choices. But their choices impact the planet. And in this scenario, the prince's choice altered the world of the royals forever. The narrative of the day the prince seized the authority and the queen was sent away. It is a tale that will be recounted in the shadows of the castles for a long time. We complete the story and stare up at the great stone walls of the palaces. They have seen a lot, they have watched kings come and go, they have witnessed battles and peace, and they have watched a prince make a play that will be remembered for all time. The story of the royal family is a story of change, and this shift was the greatest of all. The prince is master of the house. The queen is an interloper in her own house. The king is a man trying to be woken awake, and the world waits for the next chapter. It's a story that never really ends, but for now, the prince gets the last word. The hidden papers get folded up. The red wax is ripped, orders have been given. The prince has fulfilled his job, he's been cleaning house. He has guarded the crown, he has demonstrated he is ready to lead. And as the stars rise over the silent hills of Scotland, the prince may sleep at last knowing he has done what was necessary. The story of the royal power maneuver is a story of bravery, of responsibility, and of a prince who will not let the monarchy fall. It is a fictional drama for the ages, a story of a family and a throne, and a prince who became the hero of his own story. There is a long road ahead and many more obstacles to come, but the prince has proved he can handle them. He has demonstrated he's not afraid. He's demonstrated he's a leader for the modern world. The queen is in the country, the king is in his bed, the prince is in the palace. Everything is as it should be, says the hidden paper, and as the prince wished it. The story is closed, and the drama ends. The future is now, and it is a future that is Prince William's. This story ends here, but his reign is only starting. The prince is by the window. He sees the lights of the town. He hears the sound of the world moving on. He knows his life will never be the same. He knows he has changed everything. But he is peaceful. He has done his work. He has guarded his father. He has rescued the institution. He is the Prince of Wales, the head of the family and the leader of the future. And he is ready. The story of the royal power move is finished, but the story of the prince is just starting. It is a story of honor, of strength, and of a man who knew what had to be done and did it. The final word belongs to the prince. He signs one last paper. He puts down the pen. He looks at the room one last time. He turns out the light. The castle is quiet. The palace is still. The story is told. And as the world sleeps, the prince is ready to face the new day. He is the leader they need. He is the prince they follow. And he is the man who changed history with a secret paper and a bold heart. This is the story of the royal power move, a fictional legend of a family and a crown and a prince who would not be moved.